Hey everybody, welcome to the sales page teardown of the Radical Honesty online course. I was recently writing copy for a similar type of program, somewhat of a competitor. There's plenty of space in this market for everybody, so I'd see it more as like a friendly competition thing. Anyway, the sales page came across my desk. They got some pretty darn good things in here that I wanted to share, show you what's going on so you can use that in your own copy, in your own sales pages. And there's also a handful of things that I might tweak that could, I think, make this even stronger. So we will go over that right now. So we'll start with the headline, Radical Honesty. It's a pretty cool name, catches my interest, certainly. And then it goes straight into a promise, how to transform your life. Okay, cool. Life transformation, nice promise, maybe a little vague, which they then fix that problem by adding this line of by telling the truth. So they add their own specific mechanism, which makes us more unique and specific to them. And it also just adds a bit of curiosity of like, transform your life by telling the truth? What do you mean? Yeah, so I think it's a pretty strong headline. And then then the next step, they talk a little bit about, here's what we've been talking about in our previous videos. I'm assuming this is coming off of a email funnel. And then they do something that I want to see more of with so a lot of the sales pages I see in personal development market, it's just they'll just be like, okay, here's my workshop I'm putting on, and here's what it's about, here's the times and details, and here's what we cover and stuff like that. And that's fine if you've got like a red hot prospect who's like, yeah, I know you, I like you, I want to do this program, just tell me about it. And okay, that works for them. But most people come to your sales page, you're gonna need a little whining and dining first. You've got to make them want the thing you have, and then introduce your offer. So then you get them like salivating and worked up for it, and then you introduce it, and then they're more willing to buy from you. So that's what these guys do right off the bat. Is a couple introductory lines, and then they start diving straight into the pain the reader's in. Maybe you're feeling like it's time for a change. Life's not meant to be tepid, it's meant to be vibrant. It's not a countdown to your death, but there should be joy every minute along the way. You weren't meant to feel trapped and confined by social norms or others' expectations of you, or stupid tricks your mind is playing on you. So it's hitting all of these different pain points and the reasons that they exist. And this, it's good copy. It's getting to their feelings. It's connecting with the reader of, yeah, that's what I'm going through. That's the struggle I'm having that I want to get rid of. And then they do a nice job. So that's one pain point they hit on, is just like the general disinterest, dissatisfaction with life. Then they hit another pain point, which is, I imagine you have unfinished business with your parents. It weighs you down and wears you out. It's not just going to the problem, it's going to the emotion beneath the problem. You feel isolated, detached, and removed from these people. And you want to have more joy and fulfillment in your relationships. So they're hitting one problem, the general dissatisfaction with life, and then they're hitting another one, of the relationships. So it's just kind of like beating the reader down even more, of like, it's connecting with their feelings and be like, yeah, that's the crap I'm dealing with that I want to not have to deal with anymore. So yeah, that's salesmanship 101. Connect with the reader, open up the problem in their life that you can then solve. And then they transition straight from the problem to sort of showing them the other side of the rainbow, of tapping into the reader's desires, dreams, hopes. You want to be in love with your partner, have intimate conversations, lots of great sex. You want to forgive your family and finally become a close-knit family. You want to work for a boss that treats you better and appreciates you. So they're kind of hitting on different dreams the readers had in these different areas of life. Some might connect with all three. Some might just hit on one and be like, yep, that's what I want. Either way, it's all dreams that the reader's going to be like, yeah, sounds good to me, and keep reading. So, and then from here, they go and introduce, oh, well, if you got this pain and you want this thing, well, join our workshop. They start to talk about the online workshop, what it's about, why you should care. Pretty good stuff. One thing in my opinion, they're introducing the online workshop a little bit early. I think there's a couple of things that they could do right here after talking about the benefits. One could be connect with the reader even more by like having the story of like the founder, maybe like telling his story of how he felt those same struggles and now he experiences those benefits of better relationships and all the stuff they were just talking about, like his own journey and transformation. And within that, you can weave in all these other, like, oh, I tried all these other things and they didn't work. So what you're doing there is you're connecting with the reader by showing like, yeah, I understand that because I went through the exact same thing. And you're proving that this transformation can happen because you're going like, yeah, I did it myself. You can do it for you too. It doesn't have to be like the guy who's in charge of this. They could use a case study, or just anybody who this is true for. And you're also showing, in doing that, you're kind of positioning your product as like you're showing why it's better than what's out there. You want to be able to position yourself as nothing else will give you solve these problems and give you this solution that you're looking for. We are the one place to go to. So a bit more going into that before getting into, and here's what I've got for you, would make the reader just start salivating for it a bit more. And another thing that we could do is, as you're telling that story, you can take this pain and those dreams and you can make it even more real. Like just one example of what I'm talking about here is, okay, so he talks about, he tells you this thing about like, okay, you can have, you and your family forgive each other and get along better. Like, okay, cool. Like you tell me, but bring it down to like the street level. Make it more real because A, it'll get the reader feeling it, and B, it'll just give them a more clear picture of exactly what you're talking about. So instead of just saying like, oh, you have struggled with your family and you want to connect better, you can talk about like, oh yeah, like my dad would never talk to me and threw bottles at me or what. Okay, that's super dark, but like, yeah, you get into the like you give a specific image of like what that struggle looks like and what it is now, and like, oh, and then I learned this stuff, and now we had this conversation over dinner, and we both started crying, and now like he told me he loved me for the first time, and it was this amazing moment. Like, cool. Like that's something that's more concrete. They understand what you're talking about, and they can kind of be like, oh, like even if they don't want that exact thing, they can be like, oh yeah, like I want something like that. And yeah, it'll make the sales page more interesting. It'll connect to a deeper emotion by giving that descriptive language, telling the story, as opposed to just saying like you get better relationships with your family. All right, that is over. So to recap, yeah, you want to just give descriptive language to show rather than telling. Another thing they could do here is throw in testimonials. This would be a great spot for testimonials to be like, oh, here's the struggle, here's the solution, or here's the what can happen after, and then like bam, 3 people being like, oh, I struggled with my boss and now I use your techniques and we have a great relationship. Or another testimonial of a guy being like, yeah, our relationship was on the rocks and now we're like friggin' newlyweds, and if you can be descriptive in that, be like, I came home and she was waiting for me with a big hug, and that had never happened before. Some kind of real story that will give you proof. Again, by making it a descriptive and a real story, it will does more to engage readers' emotions and make them want what you got. All right, so that was a longer rant than I intended. So we are going to move on. As I said, instead of doing that, they go right into the sales pitch, and then they do something super smart. So because they're going into the pitch, I think kind of early, there's still going to be doubt in the reader's mind about like, I don't know, this is kind of like, Oh, on workshop, you're selling me something. I don't know. So what they do is they address that doubt immediately. They've got this great line. If you're willing to jump in, no matter how terrified your mind is fooling you into being. So what they're doing right there is they're just addressing the doubt that's in their mind at that moment. They're meeting a reader where they are, um, and they're just saying like, yeah, that doubt you have is, they're kind of explaining it. It's just, they're addressing it, and they're explaining it in terms of, it's just your mind playing, a trick on you. It's just your brain fooling you. And that is an explanation and language that the reader's going to understand. Because the type of person reading the sales page is going to be savvy to the concept of like, oh, our brain's telling us stories and giving us thoughts that we buy into, and I can choose not to. That's the type of person who's going to be on this sales page. That's the avatar they're writing to. So they're putting it in language, they're addressing the objection in language they understand, explaining it, and then just kind of moving on. So by doing that, the reader is going like, oh yeah, it wasn't what I was thinking, but I guess it's okay for me to be thinking that because he just told me it's okay, so I'll keep reading. So that was just a very smart example of meeting a reader where they're at and getting in their head. And then they do something else that I find super smart. I wish I thought of this freaking line myself. So after talking about what the workshop is and what it's about, they introduce, and that's exactly why we're offering you how to get over shit and be happy. This is great because what they're doing, it's just one super simple, punchy line of what you're getting and why you should care. In just this one simple line. There's so much stuff in the personal development market, especially of like, okay, here's our workshop, our course, whatever, and you get embodiment and you get perspective on life, reality, whatever. They just kind of like throw all these benefits, and it's up for the reader to kind of like connect the dots. And here they're doing that for you. They're just cutting straight to the core of this is what you're getting. And this is why you should care. You're going to get over your shit and be happy. Now, there could be trouble in just throwing a line like that out there. One is, what does get over your shit mean, and what does be happy mean? That's something you got to describe because it can mean something different to someone else, and they're like, oh, is this the shit I'm dealing with? What's your version of happy? Is that the same as my version of happy? But because of the placement of this line, they don't have that problem because they've already described what getting over your shit is. It's the shit it was the pain they talked about before of dissatisfaction, of going through life feeling like there's got to be more, of relationships with your family that suck or whatever. They've already described what be happy is, having the great relationships and a more vibrant life. So this line, it gives context to what they were talking about before. It clearly drives home what they're selling, the benefits of what they're selling and why you should care. So, and it's in regular conversational language. Like I can totally see them in like the research phase as before they were writing the sales page, and it's like talking to someone about like, oh, so what do you want? And it's just that person just like slinking over, being like, after rambling about all the problems in their life, being like, I just want to get over this shit and be happy. Like that's what they want. And here they are just putting that straight on the sales page saying, look, it's that thing you wanted. Here it is. It's in their exact language, and it's a clear, powerful promise. So that is something you should be looking to do in your own sales pages, sales copy. Just if you just boil it down to a simple, like, here's what you're going to get, here's why you care, then you're going to make a whole lot more sales than just kind of like throwing stuff out there. Now, there's also one other piece I wanted to cover, and that is, who is this Radical Online Workshop, or Radical Honesty Online Workshop for? Now, this is a section you sometimes see in sales pages. It's a good one to throw in because it can help your prospects see that this is the right thing for them. Now, what a lot of people mess this up is they will do just vague nonsense. They'll be like, oh, if you're not ready to make $1 million and you can't handle women throwing themselves at you and everyone being jealous of how amazing you are, then don't buy. Like, that's freaking stupid. The reader smells your BS from a mile away, and they go like, oh, you're just a scammy marketer, get out of my life. So you don't want that. You want the section to be real. And you want to be real not just because it will help the reader see that this is for them, but because it will keep you from wasting time with dumb people you don't want buying your product in the first place. You know, people who end up being more trouble than they're worth, who buy your product and, you know, they refund and give you bad reviews and smear your name all over the internet because, you know, you didn't, hey, I bought your thing, and even though I didn't implement a damn thing you said, my life wasn't dramatically changed. And you don't want those people in your life, so you want to get rid of them. And there's probably other people that, you know, this just isn't right for. It's not right for you. So be honest about it. Be real about it. I know, especially in personal development, everyone wants to think, oh, my thing's for everybody. Like, it's not, okay? It's not. Be real about who it's for, who it's not. You know, the person who's not going to actually implement anything being the prime example of who this is not for. So let's see how Radical Honesty does this. They talk about, all right, who's this not for? People who stress, anxiety, hasn't passed the threshold of pain. They're not motivated to make a change. People who aren't ready to let go of their stories. I'm kind of on the fence about this. It's kind of like, who? People who aren't motivated for change. So they're basically saying, like, people who don't want this product is not right for you. Like, I don't know. It's a little fluffy, a little what's the point? I think their third point is certainly stronger. You know, they talk about it's not for people who can't empathize, support others struggling, others, or will sabotage the progress. It's a little wordy. It's basically saying don't be a jerk. You know, this is a team effort. If you're a jerk, get out. So I think it's clear. It's a solid point to make. Another would be like, oh, if you can't commit, you know, 5 hours a week, whatever it is, you know, they've got certain like calls this program does or whatever. So it's like, you know, you can be honest about it. Like, if you're not going to put an hour or two into this, if you're not going to follow the steps, and get out. And that's actually, they do a pretty good job of that in a prior section where they talk about this is not a cakewalk, it's not for sissies. You gotta show up and do the work. Like, that's good. I think I didn't quite understand why it seems like it would be a better fit in the who is not for section, but whatever. That's a good point. And that slight tangent, that can also be a great sales technique. So this is like just saying who's this for and who it's not to get their prospect clear on if it's for them. But this can also be a strong emotional button to push to get them to buy. And here's what I mean. Like, think of Back to the Future, when anytime Biff wants Marty McFly to do anything, he just goes, "What are you, McFly? Chicken?" And Fly turns around. It's like, "Oh, I'll show you." You can inject that same kind of emotion to be like, "Hey, listen, you know, if you're the type of person who just wants to read The Secret and sit in your room manifesting stuff and expect all your problems to go away, like, fine, knock yourself out." Or if you actually like want to step up and take control and you're not afraid of, you know, don't use this language. It's like, hey, if you don't want to be a little bitch, you want to actually do something, then sign up for this program. And just hitting that, like, just challenging them a bit can get them to be like, oh, all right, like, yeah, I'm not those other like wimpy people who want to do nothing. Like, I am someone who wants to step up and own my shit and take control. So that can just be a little button to push either in this section or maybe in your close or just elsewhere on the sales page. So, and then the last point, people want to, you know, this isn't for people who want to use my bad language as an excuse to not handle the shit. That's like as much just like fun personality as a legit reason. So that seems like a fine thing to keep in there. Yeah, so to recap, the who is this section not for? A great way to cut out the dead weight who's just going to be more problems than they're worth. And just make it easier for the people reading to identify that this is for them, because you show them who it's not for, and they realize, oh, well, I don't fit into that section, so I suppose I fit into the other one. And that's all I have to say about that. And yeah, so if you're doing the who's it not for section, just be real about it and take a minute to think of the people who this isn't right for, who you don't want, because they do exist and you want to keep them away. Another thing could be like, oh, if this is going to be a giant financial strain, don't join. Just be real about it, be honest, and be clear. Alrighty, so that's it for this sales page. I will probably be shooting another video right about now of the relationship salon. I'll post that blog video thing later if you want to check that out. Otherwise, for other copy tips, advice, if you're in the personal development industry specifically, that's pretty much my jam. So if you want to learn a bit more, check out my site, thepdcopywriter.com. You can also just find my email on that if you have any questions, or if you just want to share some insights or let me know how much you hate listening to my voice drone on about sales copy. Whatever, give me a shout. Be fun to hear from you. And don't know how to sign off, so I'm just going to go. See ya.